Animal Crossing New Horizons has been upon us for a long time, and while it's begun to fall out of people's daily routines, there's no doubt that it's the most successful Animal Crossing game by a wide margin. I have a long history with Animal Crossing. I bought the GameCube version as a teenager because I thought the cover was cute and I was a massive simp for anything with a Nintendo logo on it. Even my mom thought it looked a bit too cutesy for my tastes like a month after I bought Time Splitters 2, but I was fresh off my first Wind Waker run and I craved another game with cheery graphics. I brought it home and I was hooked. I remember my mom getting upset with me because I'd dip out of family gatherings on holidays to go do the Animal Crossing events. I need to emphasize the fact that I was a massive Nintendo fanboy, so of course I wanted to make my house Nintendo themed. Even back then, Zelda was my favorite series, so specifically I wanted to make a Zelda themed town. My memory card is long gone, but I even remember naming my first town Kakariko. Luckily, Nintendo made this pretty easy. Animal Crossing as a series is littered with Legend of Zelda cameos, references, and even items, and that very much includes the first game. And that's what I'd like to do in this video, is take a look at nearly every instance of Legend of Zelda appearing in the Animal Crossing series. You might be shocked to learn that there's actually quite a lot. I do want to preface this by saying that I won't be paying attention to any of the spin-offs, so Happy Home Designer, Pocket Camp, and Amiibo Festival will not be talked about in this video. I just have never played them, and the video is already pretty research intensive as is, so apologies if you were hoping for that. Before we move on, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to an indie game, Curse Crackers for Whom the Bell Toils. It's coming out of Colorgrave Games, which is a company you'll be familiar with if you're a fan of this channel, the company who made Prodigal, the game I did a review on a little while ago. They're not sponsoring me or anything, I just think they make great stuff and the game is super fun, so if you have some spare time, go check it out. I promise you won't regret it. Since we've already talked about it a bit, let's start at the beginning with the very first game, Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Crossing Population Growing. The first game's a bit of a tricky subject to talk about because there's actually multiple versions of it. The game was originally released on the N64 in Japan. It was then translated into English and released on the GameCube with additional content. And then that version was translated back into Japanese and released on the GameCube in Japan with even more content. To simplify, I'll be referring to all of the versions as one when I reference the game, though the Zelda stuff is mostly in the Japanese and English GameCube versions of the game. So, let's get started. Animal Crossing for the GameCube had an asynchronous multiplayer in which multiple players could share a town, but it was impossible to directly play the game together. You couldn't run around town together. Naturally, this made things a bit trickier when players wanted to maybe trade an item for bells or give a duplicate item to a friend. While the game did have plenty of methods to share items with players in your town, sharing items with players from a different town was much harder. It included physically sharing your memory card so they can drop the item off and then physically returning it. As a workaround, Nintendo came up with a universal code system. Providing Tom Nook with an item to trade will cause him to give you a code or password. You can then give this code to another player who can tell the code to Tom Nook and receive the item you quote-unquote sent them. Naturally, people being people and the internet being the internet, these codes were promptly shared online, and you had the ability to get every item in the game at your fingertips, albeit very slowly one by one. I am one of those annoying time travel bad people, and I've found that getting everything I want right off the bat ruins the point of the game for me, so I generally avoided this feature. I would use it for one item in particular every single time though, the Master Sword. Nintendo created an entire group of items known as the Nintendo set, and my favorite is absolutely the Master Sword. It just looks so cool. Unfortunately, it is a piece of furniture, so you can't go slaughter your villagers with it, but it is always the focus of the room it's in, and I'm happy to say that it sticks around. What about something Zelda that you can have on your person? Well, we have that too. Animal Crossing had a clothing design feature via the Able Sisters, and designs could be sent to you from Nintendo via the Nintendo e-reader. You can dress up in the likeliness of Link in the hero's tunic, as Anju or Kafei, or just rock a sweet 8-bit Link on your shirt. You can also get some sweet Triforce tile. There's also a villager in the game named Octavian, who looks just like an Octorok. Unlike the rest, this isn't a guaranteed connection, but I certainly think it is, and I'm happy to say that Octavian has stood the test of time and lives in my village today in New Horizons. There are some Zelda references in the game as well. Gulliver, a traveling bird who often washes up on your beach, sometimes mentions that while traveling he may have lost his goldfish in Toad Town or Hyrule, or instead he may regale you of a tale in which he fought sea snakes at Pinnacle Rock, before remembering, of course, that it was Link, not him. This, of course, being a reference to Pinnacle Rock in Majora's Mask. Another reference comes to us from a series staple, Katrina the Fortune Teller. She'll be coming back time and time again in this video. Her ties to the Zelda series are actually pretty strong. The first and most obvious tie she has to the Zelda series is the Triforce that hangs on the back of her tent. I'd initially assumed that this was referencing the Japanese symbol instead of the Hylian one, but the sheer amount of Zelda references made in relation to Katrina throughout the series made me think otherwise. There is also in this case an interesting example of a reverse reference. When A Link Between Worlds came out, the fortune teller from A Link to the Past made a return, but whereas the Link to the Past fortune teller lived in a fairly nondescript building, the Link Between Worlds fortune teller inhabits a hut that is hugely inspired by Katrina's hut. A big thanks to Zelda Dungeon for pointing that one out. Kapp'n is a Kappa sailor who takes you to and from a distant island known as Animal Island. How travel to this island is obtained depends on the version of the first Animal Crossing that you're playing, either requiring a GBA connection or a paid-off mortgage. However, when traveling to the island, you are soothed by the sweet singing voice of Kapp'n himself. After finishing his first verse, he gives a few words of wisdom and then launches into the second verse. Once in a blue moon, he'll hint at a criminal past, asking the player, "Ever spent a night in a Hyrulean prison?" The answer may be yes, since your avatar seems to be familiar with Hyrule. Catching a fish in Animal Crossing famously comes with some sort of fish-related pun, and catching a loach nets us a Zelda reference. Your character says, "I caught a loach. You don't suppose it's Hylian, do you?" And we've come to the last Zelda reference in the original game. I've actually saved, in my opinion, by far the best for last. In Animal Crossing, you could find NES consoles with a game in them at Nook's shop via his lottery event or perhaps obtained through other means. Awesomely, these NES consoles were not just for looks. This was in an era before Nintendo thought it was okay to charge $5 for NES Golf, and interacting with the item would launch into an actual emulated version of the game pictured. Quite a few notable games were included, like Balloon Fight, Punch-Out!, Donkey Kong, and Wario's Woods. There did exist, however, 4 infamous NES games. These NES cartridges existed in the game data but were entirely inaccessible, even through universal codes. These 4 enigmas were Ice Climber, Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros., and Legend of Zelda. While it was heartbreaking that these games couldn't be obtained normally, humans are a crafty bunch, and sure enough, it was revealed that the unlisted games could be accessed using an action replay. And as a result, you could have a playable copy of Legend of Zelda for the NES in your Animal Crossing house, in your real house, playing a game to play a game. It's all very intellectual and meta, I assure you. I spent hours on these NES games. I actually did have a real NES, but I didn't have very many good games for it. And it may interest you to learn that the very first time I beat the NES Zelda was actually in Animal Crossing. And with that, we come to the end of the Zelda references in the original Animal Crossing. As a series, Animal Crossing was about to make a leap to the handheld, in the form of the DS game Animal Crossing Wild World. And though they were not numerous, Zelda references would be following suit. The Nintendo set would make a return, and we would be able to get our beloved Master Sword once again as a spotlight item at Tom Nook's. Our sword has a bit of an upgrade, however, as it now makes a great sound effect when it's interacted with. In addition, the Triforce is added to the game, obtained the same way, and when you interact with it, well, just watch this and try not to get hit with the nostalgia. Pattern designing transfers over to Wild World as well, though unfortunately no Zelda patterns are sent from Nintendo. However, in the player's guide released alongside the game, 18 design guides are provided for players to emulate, one of which is a Link pattern. The whole process is pretty monotonous, and it isn't nearly as cool as the actual clothes and items from the last game, but it is something. And lastly, a small reference exists when pilfering another villager's room. Rummaging in their closet will sometimes give the text, "You found 10 rupees. Talk about lucky. Too bad you can't use them in this town." Now let's revisit a familiar face. Katrina the Fortune Teller makes a return, serving a largely similar purpose to the first game. For our purposes, I'll note that the Triforce is still hanging behind her in the tent. And that's it for Wild World. Not many references at all, but this would be made up for in Animal Crossing's return to console, Animal Crossing City Folk for the Nintendo Wii. The big twist for this edition of the game was being able to leave your town and visit the city, full of unique characters and places to spend your bells. And it's in the city that we can find a familiar reference in the shop of our friend the fortune teller Katrina. Want one more? Sure, the creepy skeleton, an item from a Halloween exclusive set, looks identical to the skeletons found in the Temple of the Ocean King and Phantom Hourglass. And lastly, a reference to a series staple exists when talking to villagers. When receiving a gift from a villager with the jock personality, they'll sometimes tell the player to raise it above your head like a trophy. All that's well and good, but let's get to the good stuff. City Folk makes up lost ground from Wild World in some excellent Legend of Zelda items and clothing. The Master Sword and Triforce return, and they're just as lovely as before, purchasable through Tom Nook's Spotlight or Crazy Red's creepy back alley black market. The truly awesome items, however, are obtainable through Tom Nook's points system. Essentially a loyalty system, bells spent in-store earn points which can be spent on discounts and exclusive rewards. Through this system, you can earn the hero's hat and clothes, and roleplay out Link's retirement. In addition, you can get some very cool masks. Midna's hat from Twilight Princess, and coolest of all, Majora's mask, so you can horrify your villagers in style. And that's City Folk. Most of the references are obscure, and for how few items there are total, they make up for it by being very cool. Animal Crossing would famously skip the Wii U for core releases, but it would get another game on the 3DS. But I probably don't need to tell you that. Animal Crossing New Leaf was overwhelmingly popular, it still is, and in this game, Zelda fans finally got their due. Notice the runtime left on this video? Yeah. The Zelda support in this game is overwhelming. Let's get started. We've entered the world of software updates and DLC, and it's worth mentioning that the bulk of these references and items came from the Welcome Amiibo update, which was a massive update, bringing entirely new gameplay mechanics into New Leaf. Let's start off with Old Reliable, the Nintendo set. Though no new Zelda items were added to the set in specific, the Triforce and Master Sword are back and looking better than ever. Via the magic of QR codes, Nintendo offered numerous patterns for Zelda clothing, including Zelda's dress, a low-rule tee, and a Yuga dress. QR codes for a horrifying Tingle standee were also sent out. I could live with never seeing that thing again. Gulliver makes a return, washing up on your beach once again. When woken up, he'll think of a country and ask you to guess what he's thinking of. If you guess correctly, he'll sometimes say, "You're really amazing. Perhaps you have a link to the past with that country or something?" Oh, that was far worse than any of the fishing puns. If you refuse to help Gulliver figure out what country he was trying to get to, he'll meet your refusal with another Zelda reference. He'll say, "The chill of the ice cavern is nothing compared to getting the cold shoulder." A reference obviously to the ice cavern in Ocarina of Time. Now we get to, by far, the coolest part of this entire video. I would have saved this for the very last, but I kind of need to explain this part first for the rest of the New Leaf section to make sense. The Welcome Amiibo update added amiibo functionality into the game. Nintendo released a massive selection of Animal Crossing amiibo cards, and later a run of actual Animal Crossing amiibo. Scanning one of these amiibo will invite that character to drive their RV into your campground and hang out. These villagers can then be convinced to move into your town. But here's where it gets really cool. Different non-Animal Crossing amiibo can be scanned, and this largely nets you unique items tangentially related to the amiibo scanned. Scanning most of the Zelda amiibos, however, will actually invite a Legend of Zelda character to your campground with a Zelda-themed RV, and they can be invited to live in your town. This is so cool. There are 4 possible villagers: Ganon, Medli, Epona, and Wolflink. Wait, Epona? I don't know why, but this horrifies me. She's kind of cute, but watching Epona stand on 2 legs and walk around talking to people just really, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. Like, I get that the entire point of the game is that you're living with anthropomorphic animals, but like, Epona is less anthropomorphized than the other animals. I don't know, it's very weird. Ganon is a pig villager with a cranky personality. His birthday is the same as the release date of the NES Legend of Zelda, and his house has an NES Zelda wallpaper with, of course, a throne. Epona is a horse villager with a peppy personality, and her birthday is the Japanese release date of Ocarina of Time. Her house is vaguely themed after Lon Lon Ranch. Medli is a bird villager with the normal personality. Her birthday is the same as the release of Wind Waker, and she has a very cool Wind Waker themed house. And lastly, we have what I'm sure is the fan favorite with Wolflink. He is a wolf villager with the smug personality, and his birthday is the same as the Japanese release of Twilight Princess. In a very cool move, his room looks like the sewer in which we first control Wolflink in Twilight Princess. Wolflink also has one further reference involved with him. He doesn't have a stereo in his house by default, but if you gift him one, he will place it in his house. The music that plays will be KK Western, undoubtedly a reference to the shootout in the Hidden Village. Having actual Zelda characters as villagers in your town is obviously insanely cool. It doesn't really get better. However, our list doesn't end there. The Welcome Amiibo update added a metric ton of Zelda items into the game, most of which is obtained through a trade system with the Zelda villagers while they're visiting in their RV. And by a lot, I mean a lot. Let's go through them now. We can get a bomb, Cuckoo ornament, Gossip Stone, heart container, piece of heart, Hero of Time scroll, Hylian shield, Hyrulean treasure, Lon Lon milk, rupee, Termina's moon, Hyrule wall, Zelda floor, Epona outfit, fairy bottle, Ganondorf outfit, pants and wig, Link hat and outfit, Medli outfit, new heroes outfit and wig, Princess Zelda's dress, Sheik mask outfit and pants, Makar from Wind Waker, and finally, Wolflink's outfit. Oh, that was a lot. That alone would be more than enough fan service, but is that all New Leaf has to offer Zelda fans? No. Timmy and Tommy sell fortune cookies, items which can be bought with play coins and provide a small fortune, which can be traded to Timmy and Tommy for a Nintendo-themed item. We can even get more Zelda-themed items this way, paired with a Zelda-themed fortune. Through the fortune cookies we can get the hero's clothes. When the land is in peril, you will become the hero of your town. The hero's pants. Don't take it lightly, a hidden chest awaits. A hero's cap. A green hat may be just the thing to inspire you towards adventure. The hero's boots. A door that does not open is not closed to you, it only needs a key. Majora's mask. If you leave my mask out there, something terrible will happen. Midna's mask. Look to the sky when the sun sets. All will be revealed in this twilight. The Master Sword. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Hey, we're not supposed to say that till the end of the video. The Triforce. He who believes he has a pure heart is probably just a beast in denial. and Fee mask. Sometimes a sword is a sword, and sometimes it's a pretty girl. Man, there is an insane amount of Zelda stuff in this game. There's almost as many Zelda items in Animal Crossing New Leaf as there are Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. Almost. We have a few other scant references. Katrina the Fortune Teller returns to New Leaf back in her tent. In addition, however, she now has an entry flap on her tent that bears an eye symbol that looks suspiciously similar to that of a Sheikah eye. Again, it could just be a generic eye symbol that shows that she sees the future, but together with the Triforce, it makes me a bit suspicious, and it'll get even more suspicious later on. The Triforce makes a return hanging behind her, but this time with the Sheikah eye right above it. You cannot tell me that that isn't a Zelda reference. I could take that right out of Animal Crossing and stick it into a Zelda game and no one would bat an eye. But if you still think that I'm just reaching with Katrina, I think Nintendo themselves wanted to make this connection obvious by giving her a very explicit tie to Legend of Zelda. When Katrina opens up her shop on Main Street, she's willing to sell the player a Tingle Hood. So honestly, between the Triforce and Eye looking so similar to their Zelda counterparts, her tent inspiring the Fortune Teller's tent in A Link Between Worlds, and her Tingle Hood, I don't think it can be denied that there's a very explicit connection between Katrina and the Legend of Zelda series. The last thing I want to mention in regards to Katrina is that there is another supposed reference to Legend of Zelda, but I haven't been able to confirm it. The Animal Crossing wiki says that at some point she makes a reference to the Triumph Forks, which is a hilariously obscure reference to Wind Waker that I want you to Google so you can appreciate just how obscure it is. But no matter how many times I did Katrina's Fortune, I was not able to get her to say this line. I tried every single game, probably 100 fortunes each, and I wasn't able to do any of them. I even tried some of the relationship fortunes, no luck whatsoever. So if you've been able to get this line of dialogue before, please let me know which game it was in so I can make an update, because this is driving me crazy. Majora's Mask can be found on the Nintendo 3DS shelf. Sometimes a tree stump cut with an axe can have a Triforce pattern. Oh, and the creepy skeleton makes a return too. And that's pretty much it for the exhaustive amount of Zelda content in Animal Crossing New Leaf. What about New Horizons? Well, there's no Zelda items at all, but at least there's a couple references. When you're having your island raided, the response will sometimes be, "It's a place I've been quietly watching. It's a secret to everybody. I don't want it to be famous." This is obviously a reference to the friendly moblin in NES Legend of Zelda. Katrina is also back, and while the Triforce is seemingly gone from her person, she still has the Sheikah-ish eye on her trailer. The player can also meet a somewhat new character in Captain Gullivar, the Chad version of Gulliver, offering pirate gear to help him find his lost communicator parts. If you turn down his request, he can respond with, "Arr, I haven't felt this betrayed since I loaned me best jacket to that hornswaggler Linebeck," obviously referencing Linebeck from Phantom Hourglass. But other than that, nothing official. Truthfully, New Horizons is, in my opinion, pretty content sparse in general, and with content updates more or less finished, the lack of Legend of Zelda doesn't seem like it's gonna change. At the very least, it's worth pointing out that the New Leaf QR codes do still work in New Horizons, so you can still get some Zelda love via your clothing. But it's disheartening to see Nintendo end the trend of Zelda-themed items and costumes that have been in the game since the very beginning of the series. And that's a history of Legend of Zelda references and items in Animal Crossing. Again, I know I ignored Happy Home Designer, Amiibo Festival, and Pocket Camp, but truthfully I just don't really care about those games, and this was already quite a lot of research. I am definitely liable to have missed a few, and please let me know if I did in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what I do here on the channel and you'd like to support me, you can always leave a comment, swing by my Twitter, check out my Patreon so you can join the Subrosian Parade, or just like and share the video. Good luck with your turnips, and if you have to leave the house, remember that it's dangerous to go alone, so take this.